Hey everyone, Flo from OFTWOLANDS here, and today we're going to talk about the new Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K again, but this time I'm going to compare it to my 6K Pro. Since I've started to share content using the new camera, one of the most popular questions I received was how does it compare to the 6K Pro, or should I upgrade from the 6K Pro to the new one? So I thought I would make this video to hopefully help you make a decision. For this video, I will refer to the new 6K as a 6K full frame and the 6K Pro as a Pro. I'm going to focus on the similarities, their differences, the pros of each of these cameras, and share my thoughts on whether or not I think it is worth the upgrade or which one I think you should get. I will also show you what the same focal length and lenses look like on both cameras. And before I start, don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this one, and let's get into it. The regular 6K and the 6K Pro have been my main cameras for a few years now, and I have shot anything from documentaries to travel videos, as well as licensing and personal content. Since its release, the 6K Pro quickly became my first choice, as it is out of the box a very complete camera with a beautiful image, and the addition of bigger batteries, internal NDs, as well as a tiltable screen compared to the regular 6K made it an easy first choice for me as a solo shooter. With the release of the new 6K full frame, we get a very similar but also very different camera. First of all, they almost look identical from the outside. They have the same body shape and the external size is very similar, with the 6K full frame being slightly slimmer and lighter than the Pro. They also share the same button layout, the same batteries, as well as the same 5-inch tiltable screen and very similar menus, as well as the ability to record to external SSDs in addition to their respective media. And when it comes to actual battery life, so far I feel it's pretty much the same between the two cameras. The dual native ISO are also the same at 400 and 3200, and they both have 13 stops of dynamic range. And the accessories released for the 6K Pro, which are the EVF and the grip, work with the 6K full frame as well. One thing they also have in common is a relatively low price for the amount of features and image quality you get. But of course, these cameras are also very different. Now let's look at the differences. There are two main differences between these cameras. The new 6K is full frame with an L mount, and the 6K Pro is a Super 35 sensor camera with an EF mount. To give you an idea of size difference between the two sensors, the full frame sensor of the new 6K is 36 by 24 mm, and the Super 35 one from the 6K Pro is 1299 by 2310. Then there are also two other significant differences. The 6K full frame has an optical low-pass filter built in, and the 6K Pro doesn't. But the Pro has internal NDs and the 6K full frame does not. Then we have codecs. The 6K Pro can shoot in both B-RAW and ProRes, and the 6K full frame can only shoot RAW, similar to the OFTWOLANDS. However, it can record proxies at the same time, which is new. In terms of resolution, the 6K Pro can record at up to 6144 by 3456, and the 6K full frame at 6048 by 4032. The frame rates are also different, and the Pro can reach up to 50 FPS in its full 6K resolution, whereas the 6K full frame will max out at 36 FPS. And lastly, the media. The 6K Pro uses two slots, one CFast and one SD, whilst the 6K full frame uses a single CF Express slot. The new camera is also called Cinema Camera 6K, which marks a departure from the Pocket line. So whilst they might look very similar, the new 6K full frame is on its own range when it comes to the Blackmagic lineup. Now let's look at the Pro of the new BMCC6K. To me, the biggest advantage of the new 6K is the sensor. The image looks absolutely beautiful and the sensor makes for really immersive shots. There is so much depth and detail. With the new full frame sensor, you get the ability to shoot 6K open gate in 3x2, which aside from giving you a beautiful aspect ratio, it also gives you lots of flexibility to reframe your shots. You can also film in 6.5 anamorphic, and I find this to be a huge plus as the height of the sensor gives you the ability to de-squeeze in 1.8 times or 2 times for example, without losing the edges or having to crop in order to get a 2.4:1 aspect ratio. And on top of that, you can also shoot in Super 35 and even Super 16. So there is a lot of different choices depending on the resolution and format. Another pro is the L mount. This allows you to use a wide variety of lenses using adapters or not. For example, I use the Sigma MC21 for my EF glass and it worked great. Personally, I think it opens up so many possibilities and is a logical and necessary choice for Blackmagic. And finally, the optical low-pass filter is also a plus with this camera. These filters are used to get a cleaner image, reducing moire and IR issues. And speaking of image, here's a quick word about today's sponsor, Film Convert. I've talked about it many times on the channel before, but Film Convert enables you to add film color and grain to your videos. There are nearly 20 film stocks to choose from, and you have real film grain. All the footage you have seen in this video, and pretty much all my work with Blackmagic cameras, was graded using Film Convert. I love the look of film, and I always try in my own work to have that aesthetic and organic feel by adding a bit of grain using the film stocks. For this Blackmagic footage and for most of my work, I used the stock KD5207. Recently, I have received a lot of positive feedback on the footage I filmed with the new cinema camera 6K, and I've been really pleased by the look I was able to achieve using Film Convert on this new full-frame sensor. If you want to know more, last year I made a dedicated video where I discussed my color grading process, so feel free to watch it. And don't forget to check out the link in the description to get 10% off. To me, the biggest advantage of the Pro is having internal NDs. As someone that shoots a lot of content outdoors, on jobs or when traveling, having NDs can save me a lot of time, and it also means that I have to carry less, and there's also no risk of forgetting to bring a VND or a matte box. Whilst they might not be the best NDs out there, they are very useful and super handy. Another pro for me is the ability to shoot ProRes. Being able to shoot ProRes in 4K internally is always a plus, as it is a very easy codec to edit with, but also archive and share. The Super 35 sensor can also be a pro in certain situations. First of all, you get less rolling shutter than you would on a full-frame sensor. And depending on the lenses that you use, you can also get more reach on the long end without cropping in on the sensor. For example, my Canon 24-105 goes to essentially 160mm on the long end on the 6K Pro. And lastly, the EF mount. EF lenses have been around for a very long time, and there are many options out there to choose from for all sorts of prices and brands. And for someone like me that has been involved in photography and filmmaking for more than 10 years, they are most likely to own a few EF lenses. Essentially, the 6K Pro is a complete camera from the time you open the box, and it can cover a wide variety of situations without the need to invest in anything else than the essentials. Now let me show you a few examples using the same lens on both cameras at different focal length, so you can get an idea of the field of view as well as the depth of field. Bear in mind that these are quick tests and nothing scientific or groundbreaking. These first shots are done with a Siri 35mm Jupiter at T2, and both cameras are at ISO 400 in B-RAW 12:1 in their full respective resolution. This is what you get with a 6K full frame, and this is what you get on a 6K Pro. And now just to show you, this is what you get with a 50mm of the same lens series on the 6K full frame to get a similar field of view. You see how much more you can fit in the frame using a 35 lens on a 6K full frame. It's hard to see on the screen, but there's definitely more separation and depth on a 6K full frame. Now let's use a Canon 24-105 with the same settings on both cameras. This is what you get at 24mm on a 6K full frame, and this is what you get on a 6K Pro. Now 50mm on a 6K full frame, and 50mm on the Pro. And finally 105 in full frame, and 105 on a 6K Pro. And lastly, this is a quick test to show you the depth of field and separation between the two cameras again. This is a 6K Pro at 85mm with a Canon 24-105 at f4. And this is a 6K full frame. Even though we have a wider field of view on a full frame camera, you can see how the figurine just pops compared to the 6K Pro. To get closer, this is what the 6K full frame looks like at 105, which is a maximum on this lens. I actually had to use my 70-200 at 135 to get a similar field of view. I think this gives you a pretty good idea of the difference between the two sensors using the same standard lens. Also, to me, the 6K full frame seems to be sharper too. Also, I know people seem to really worry or care about the rolling shutter, which I understand, but for my type of work and pretty much for all the work that I've been doing so far, it has never been an issue on the Pro. Based on my experience with the new 6K full frame and this very simple test, I would say that the 6K Pro is doing slightly better than the full frame. Over the past few years, the 6K Pro has been the best camera I've used from an operating and filming point of view. Having that kind of image quality and user interface in a body that has a usable screen as well as internal NDs has made this 6K Pro a very hard camera to beat. With the release of the new Cinema Camera 6K, it makes choosing between the two a very difficult process, not only because they are very similar, but also because they're essentially the same price. In my opinion, the image coming from the 6K full frame is superior than the one coming from the Pro. The full frame depth and detail, combined with the OLPF filter, makes for probably the best image I've ever used on any camera. Shooting 6K open gate is pretty incredible, and filming with anamorphic lenses is a better experience with this one, as you can make use of the full height of the sensor. That being said, the lack of internal NDs and the more pronounced rolling shutter can make the 6K Pro a better choice for many, especially for run and gun travel content. And if you don't want to bother with external VNDs, or if you already own many EF lenses and are happy with the Super 35 look, or if you need faster frame rates, then I don't think you should upgrade. But if what you want is the best image possible and/or a full frame sensor, then a new 6K is of course the better choice. I don't think there is a right answer, it just depends on what you do and need and what you have already invested in terms of lenses and accessories. That's it for me for today guys. Again, I will make a proper review of the new 6K once I have used the camera enough, so stay tuned. Hopefully this was helpful to you, and let me know in the comments if you need to know anything else. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Also, feel free to check out my 2 ebooks, Freelance Documentary Filmmaking and Travel Cinematography, where you can find a streamlined but comprehensive overview from pre-production all the way to marketing, built on years of my own experience shooting short documentaries and travel videos around the world. And if you are interested, I'm also doing filmmaking mentoring sessions when you can ask me anything about a wide variety of topics.